1 out of 3 African-American men may well end up going to prison. That's the statistic. I want people here to think what we would be doing if it was 1 out of 3 white men.
Why do black people still like the Clintons?
I don't know. Hey, I don't know. You know, everybody got their own choice, you know. There's no telling what she's telling them or doing for them.
I said tonight that part of the blame should have been in terms of incarceration on the 1994 Clinton crime bill.
It's a very well thought out crime bill that is both smart and tough.
It hurt me to wake up and see my beautiful black people suffer, victimized by the oppressive, harsh realities of the hood. I guess even though we were free, we were still slaves in the mind.
Message! TYBETROLLING, CEO, Clout Team Entertainment, best rapper on the YouTube, hands down, no questions asked. And of course, y'all know slavery is a choice. And this will be the 2024 election iceberg.
If we can keep our minimum mandatory sentencing provisions, if we can put more police officers on the streets, if we can build more courts, have more prosecutors, if we will commit ourselves to be as outraged about crime as the people who are victims are outraged, I believe we're going to begin to turn the tide, and I believe this bill is going to be an important part of it. I yield the floor.
Senator's time. I was running then in 1972. I didn't think Richard Nixon knew what it meant, and I didn't think the opposition knew what it meant. This president is very, very straightforward and simple. He knows there are 2 basic steps here. One step is you must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons, more physical protection for the people.
But first, we're going to start with the 1994 crime bill and its impact on black Americans. So, let's get into it. A witty retrospective. The 1994 crime bill. A piece of legislation that's as infamous as a tabloid scandal and as complex as a Shakespearean drama. Officially known as the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, this bill was the brainchild of a Congress eager to tackle the crime wave of the early 90s. But like a plot twist in a mystery novel, its impact on black Americans has been a tale of unintended consequences and sobering realities. The 1994 crime bill, a blast from the past. Hey, imagine the year 1994. Flannel shirts were in, Friends debuted on TV, and the U.S. was grappling with the crime rate that had everyone on the edge. Enter the crime bill, a legislative behemoth that proposed to be the hero Gotham needed. With its $30 billion price tag and 356 pages of legal jargon, it was the largest crime bill in U.S. history.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is criticizing former Vice President Joe Biden over the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, which was signed into law in 1994. Biden, who was a senator from Delaware at the time, wrote the legislation. It is the largest crime bill in U.S. history and increased funding for the hiring of police officers and the building of prisons. Here's Biden discussing the bill on the Senate floor before it was voted on in 1993.
We don't. They will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Critics of the bill, like Mayor de Blasio, have called it a mistake and say that it contributed to a mass incarceration crisis.
We end here tonight with a first after one man received a second and third chance. Here's Jeff Pegues.
52-year-old Matthew Charles walked to the White House today, a changed man.
It feels remarkable.
He was once a so-called career offender. In 1996, he was sentenced to 35 years in prison for selling crack cocaine.
After leaving the military in 1987, where I became a lawless person, and it wasn't until my incarceration in 1996 that the transformation began.
That transformation over 21 years behind bars earned him an early release in 2016. His lawyers successfully argued that his sentence was unfair and that he'd changed. He started over in Nashville, where he worked in a food pantry and met his girlfriend.
You, Karen?
Thank you.
But freedom was short-lived when an appeals court reversed his early release and ordered him back to prison.
It was a gut shot. It was like a bitter pill.
In December, President Trump signed the First Step Act. It eased mandatory minimum drug sentences and led to Charles's release from prison again. How do you feel about President Trump?
I'm very honored and grateful that he was, signed the First Step Act. So I have nothing but respect and thankfulness for that.
Matthew Charles is believed to be the first person freed from prison because of the First Step Act. How does freedom feel?
Freedom feels wonderful.
He says his mission now is to push for others to get a first step to a second chance.